Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad you're still with us. Thank you so much. How awesome has this been? Did you love Andrew Ward with Far Betterment and my dear friend Claire Evanson? I mean, really, were they not just phenomenal? So glad that they decided to be a part of this journey with us. I'm so excited. So excited. I now get the distinct pleasure to introduce to you one of my new but very true friends, Rebekah Redvall. We are going to talk about narcissists, narcissist abuse. We're going to touch a little bit on complex PTSD, which is the continual repetitive abusive behavior, more than just one event. It's a continual struggle. We're going to talk about how not only is abuse things that are being said to us or done to us or events that have happened, but how it's also neglect and abandonment. Those are just as crucial for our development, and the lack of those and love and support being used as a weapon, it's a control thing. We're going to talk about that, but for now, I want you to please welcome Rebekah Redvall as we talk about narcissists. We call it Narc Abuse. We talk about disassociation, which is where your mind and your body just aren't connected. You just kind of check out, and there's lots of ways that can happen. We talk about narcs. When we say narcs, we mean narcissists. If you have any further questions, go ahead and comment below. We'll get back to you. Thank you so much again for being here. Let's no more delay. Thank you so much to Rebekah Redvall. Thank you for being a part of this, and we're looking forward to hearing more from you. So we have Rebekah Redvall here.
Yes.
Yay! I've been kind of thinking, and maybe let's go ahead and just introduce who you are and what your passion is all about and why.
Okay. Well, let's see. I live in Washington State. It's beautiful here. I love green. Green is my favorite. I feel like green is so soothing. It really is.
Yeah.
I've had PTSD as long as I can remember. I feel like I was a toddler when I got it from physical abuse. I was raised in a very strict narcissistic home, in a very strict narcissistic church that felt like a cult. It's not that they actually believed cult-like doctrine, it was just narcissistic, which keeps children and women suppressed,
Right.
Let's see, and then I married a narcissist, and now I have an awesome husband. He's so amazing, and I have 3 children. And just, I feel like I want to be the voice for people that don't quite have their voice back. I know leaving narcissistic abuse, you don't really have a voice. You don't know anything about yourself. You really have to reinvent yourself, And so I feel like that's kind of what I want to do, and help those that are kind of struggling with leaving,
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
I agree. So do you feel kind of like you're taking the bad parts of your life and making good out of it?
Definitely. That's all God. God wastes nothing. And he's going to use everything that I learned.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully I can use that to help other people. I mean, that was my prayer for so long, going through trauma processing. I just wanted the Lord to not have my life be, a waste. Because looking back on all your abuse, that's what you feel like. You feel like worthless, and look at all this.
Right. Yep. I understand.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. You want to feel like you have a purpose.
Yeah. And you feel like you wasted all that time trying to fix that relationship
Exactly.
and fix you because you're made to believe that you're the problem.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
wasted so much of your time. And as I can imagine, since you said you grew up in that kind of a home environment, your church was that kind of environment, and then you married into it, it kind of seemed to be a repetitive scene.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a lot. That's a problem. I feel like with most people that grow up in narcissistic abuse, you were programmed to take it. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So when it starts so young, that's what you know, and you equate love to abuse.
Yes, for sure. You think they go hand in hand.
Right.
One always comes with the other. That's what you're told as a child.
Right. Yeah. And it's so not true. So I wanted to kind of dig in a little bit on what we mean by a narcissist. What is a narcissist? What are the characteristics that you found with them in your life?
Well, they're self-serving for sure, and and so manipulative. Every decision they make is like they have an agenda, and every decision they make or move that they make, it's to further along their agenda. So like a narcissist can be, there's so many different types. It could be like this narcissist wants to believe they're the smartest person, or this one wants to believe they're the most beautiful, or it's just like they just think they're superior, like they're like a step above, and that's how they think everyone else should treat them. And so if you don't treat them that way, then they're going to punish you.
Right.
Yeah.
And punishment can look so many different ways.
Oh yes, and it can be covert too. It's not always physical.
Right.
Not always verbal. So
right.
All different kinds of
and
abuse.
Sometimes, and like you said, there's the covert, there's the physical, but sometimes it's the withholding of things, like we talked about before. It's the abandonment, the neglect, the silent treatment,
rejection.
Yeah, just
smear
because,
campaign. Yep.
Yes.
Because they're not actually saying anything to you, but they're just going behind your back and telling all these lies about you.
Right.
But then if you get upset, well then see, I told you she's crazy.
Exactly. Do you feel, I feel like that's a very common word that narcissists use. They're crazy. And it really sends flags to me now. It really kind of makes me go,
no, they're just responding to something.
Exactly. Because, but when you're in the middle of it, I don't know about you, but when I was in the middle of mine, I felt crazy because because you just are so frustrated and manipulated and controlled. You don't know what's your thoughts and what someone else's anymore, and who you are.
It's true. And the gaslighting is terrible.
Yes.
So you really don't even know what's true anymore.
Exactly.
And then for me, when I get in that kind of a situation, I always dissociate. So then I'm even more removed from, the present. And so I really have no idea what's going on.
Right.
I can't remember, it's just the way it is.
It is.
But that's what they want. They like it when you're confused.
Yeah. I kind of want to speak to that, where a lot of people listening will be like, well, then why do you stay with someone like that? Why do you stay? Why did you wait so long to leave? And why did you even start dating them? I actually had a conversation, within the last week or two, and we were talking about one of the narcissists in my life, and he asked me point blank, like, why did you even want to be around this person? Why didn't you just quit? And it came down to, well, in the beginning, that's not how it was. They are so good at playing this part, putting on that mask, and they are sweet.
They're
and
kind.
kind.
That's what it is. They're
Yeah.
con men. I mean, I noticed that right away. And when I was with my ex, I didn't know anything about narcissism. I didn't even know that was a word. I didn't know that was a thing, because
Yes.
this was like 20 something years ago. There
Yeah.
was no resources. There was nothing. And I was just like, what is this guy? Because after, the love bombing and all that, and I'm just like,
Right.
what?
Yes.
So, yeah, and
Yeah.
I realized, I mean, my eyes were open, like, he's a con man, and he just puts on this mask whenever these people come over, whenever these other people come over, he's a different way and I just started noticing, like, different masks, and I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And you just got to really pay attention to the patterns, and I think that's part of the reason why the narcissist wants to keep you triggered and confused, because they don't want you to see the patterns.
Right.
So, I would suggest to people, if you're in that situation, keep a record, like keep a journal, write stuff down so that you can go back and see the patterns, even if you are confused or dissociated or whatever.
Right.
So for sure, that's a good plan.
And what triggers make you dissociate? For
Yes,
those listening,
yes.
dissociation can look a few different ways, but basically you check out. Your body and your mind just are not in sync.
Yep.
You just kind of you're like, some people might zone out is kind of a term. It's that on steroids, though.
Mm-hmm.
Some people pass
I
out
felt like I was in
completely.
the center. Yeah, the center of a merry-go-round, and the whole world was going like this around me, and that's what I saw. Whenever I looked around, I just saw the world going like that. I
Right.
mean, it's terrible
Yeah.
when you're really bad, and
And
you can't stop it.
no,
You
no.
can't.
You can, once you cut, like you said, the patterns, once you learn the patterns and kind of what might do it, what might not, you can do your best to try and catch it beforehand. I notice now, there'll be times where I'll be like, oh, I got to be careful here. I could disassociate,
Mhm.
and I will start doing the things to help me not do that. A lot of times it's I get myself out of the situation, whether
Yeah,
it's
for me, that's how it is now. I don't even mess around. I'm like, nope, I'm
nope,
out.
yep,
But back then, I didn't know.
yeah, because you're
So,
the crazy one for so long in your
mhm.
mind, because that's what they convince you. And
Yeah,
it's not even like when we watch TV or movies, it's not the it's not always. Sometimes it is, but it's not always them telling you you're nothing, you're worthless, they don't necessarily use those words. They
no,
just
they never
use
use
their
those words.
manipulation and how they treat you to
Mhm.
make you feel that way. So then when
Mhm.
you're asked about it, you say, well, he
You
said
can't put
this
your
and this
finger
and
on
this.
anything.
Yeah. And someone goes, well, that doesn't sound,
No. Yep.
and you're
You
like,
can't
but,
tell anybody.
but yeah, because no one, if you've never
You can't
experienced it, you
explain
don't get it.
covert abuse. No, you can't. You can't explain covert abuse.
No.
There's no words to say to explain that.
Right. And
So,
trying to
you have to
explain it,
live it.
even with counselors sometimes, I'm like, you deal with this all the time. Like, why do you not understand what I'm saying? Like, ugh. I posted something on intimidation on my Instagram a day or two ago, and I just, before we got on this call, read a comment, something about, try telling the courts that they'll laugh in your face, that intimidation
Mhm.
is a kind of abuse. And I'm like, it's so true. It is
It
so
is.
true. If you don't have bruises and cuts and broken bones physically to show, it's like it's not valid on so many levels, whether it be
Yeah.
with the police or with the courts or with lawyers and judges and family members, friends. I mean, sometimes if they don't get it, they look at you like you're crazy. Like, okay, so what did he say? And you repeat it. And when you say it out loud, you're like, well, that really doesn't sound all that bad, but you
Mhm.
don't know how he said it, and you don't know the body language that came with it, and
Or what he was implying, or it's
exactly.
always like the words aren't really what he meant. It's like
Yes.
what he's doing with,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I know.
My mom, I remember talking to my mom once, and she was like, I don't understand. Yeah, that sounds not so fun, and I had recordings. And she started crying. She's like, I had no idea that's what you dealt with. Because you just, until you hear it or see it and experience it, it just doesn't mean much. And so it's
It's
really
true.
hard. it's really hard to explain
Mm-hmm.
the
Yes, and I think
tactics.
that's a one thing we should mention real quick. If you had narcissistic abuse and you need to recover from that, make sure you go to someone that's had narcissistic abuse, because
Oh
that
yeah,
is a huge thing for them,
right. To
so that
feel
they
validated.
understand you. And yes, that would help,
Yeah.
be so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually really. You are
Because
absolutely right.
my counselor was married to a narcissist, and she grew up in a narcissistic home. So she
She got it.
really understands all of it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. I like that. I like that. Or, you know, I have found just in who I associate with on social media, when you start seeing other people posting about, like you, I love your stuff on narcissistic relationships, because I'm like, oh yes, that's so true. It's just validating. So
Mm-hmm.
even, yes,
It is.
if you need out of a relationship, whether it's a relationship with a significant other, or maybe it's family members or friends, whatever
Or
it is,
friends, or a
yes,
church. It could be any of those things.
yes, get the support you need to do that, or you're going to go back to it because that's your comfort zone. And your mind
Mm-hmm.
can go, well, that sounds stupid. I'm not comfortable there. That's not my comfort zone. But it
Well,
becomes your
that's,
comfort because it's your
mm-hmm. And
norm.
it's because when you leave, you have to face the smear campaign. And the smear campaign is so hurtful, and it's so painful. And so people would rather stay with the covert abuse that happens once in a while than to face the smear campaign that is like brutal, like knives in your back.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times people they're not willing to face that. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, that's with marriage, that's with churches, that's with jobs, that's with, so many different narcissists treat people that way. So
It's hard. And it's hard to explain.
you have to get a whole new life,
You
new
do.
friends, new everything. You can't have any friends that are associated with the narcissist,
Right.
because they pick him first,
Mm-hmm.
or the organization first, or whatever. You just have to
Right.
get a whole new life.
Yeah. And that's not easy because you,
Nope.
on the outside looking in, it's like, okay, you're in this horrible situation. Why don't you just get out? First of all, you have to plan your exit. So you can't just poof
Yes.
go, because the exit sometimes is the most dangerous part. I know we've talked about that.
Yeah.
So you have to
Confrontation
plan.
is no.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yep.
No, you got to get your own cell phone. You got to get your own account and start squirreling money. You got to get a plan. You
Yep.
got to just boom out the
You
door.
have to have a support system outside of the flying monkeys.
Yeah.
All these things. Yes.
Absolutely. And then
Mm-hmm.
but that's not even the hard part. The hard part, like you said, is you need a whole new life. You need a whole new, I mean, especially if it's like your family or your church, you have to change your church. And
Mm-hmm.
I know you and I are both very Christian faith oriented, and so I don't ever want to imply that you should give up your faith in God. No. If you feel like you're
No.
in a religion that is
Mm-hmm.
harmful
Exactly.
and narcissist, then you
Leave.
need to find another one. You need to find something else that
Mm-hmm.
you feel is
Yep.
supportive for you and your faith,
Mm-hmm.
and supportive in your
You
trying
should
to get
feel
back.
loved.
Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to get your whole new life, but you have to do that after you have been emotionally beat down.
Yep.
You don't know who you are. You don't think
And
you think you're weak. You think you don't
Yep.
have
And the
any
narcissist
worth.
isn't going to stop. So they're going to
No!
continue to beat you down and stalk you and harass you, and they don't stop. So
No,
you still have to fight it. I mean, it's very hard.
it is. And if they can't get to you, then they get people around you. If they can't get to you anymore
Oh yeah, they'll get
personally,
your children or
yeah,
your friends or your boss or
yeah.
Yep. Or they'll try to get you fired just for fun. Yeah, that too.
One of my abusers had some connections, and I got pulled over. My license plate and my driver's license did not match because I had just moved from another state. I don't remember which one was which, but they were different. And I didn't even pull out my license yet. So all that the cop knew was my plates. And he was dinging me. He was like citing me citations all over the place. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. Like, there's people like flying past me. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you're the first out-of-state person I pulled. You're the third out-of-state person I pulled over today. And I was like, and I looked at him and said, how do you know I'm out of state? Because my plate was in the state that I was in, but my license I hadn't changed yet. And he was like, give me your info. And it was just boom, done. And I was like, what the heck? And then I knew something was fishy. And then I got home and I get, it was back in the day where there was like instant messenger message on my computer. And it said, heard you got pulled over. I told you, you can't escape me.
Oh my word.
Dang.
Did you take that to court?
I should have.
I would have.
I was young and dumb. I was young and dumb.
So many things I would have done different looking back. I would have fought back more, but you're so beat down you can't.
Exactly.
You can't.
I would have spoke up more.
So it's hard to say I would have been different. Hindsight's so much better,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everything's always your fault.
Yes, even their faults are your fault.
They're your fault, yeah. So if they do something wrong or it's because of you. But if you have a fault, it's because of you.
Even if they have a bad day, it's because of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you just got home. How is this my fault? Like,
because you get to be their punching bag.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who's like, I might have a narcissistic parent or significant other? What would you say are some big red flags? And then how would you describe kind of how we talked about your exit plan? How do you get out? How do you set yourself free and prepare yourself?
So I think the biggest sign is if you feel controlled. I know we talked about that yesterday.
Right.
If you feel like you're controlled in any way, if you feel like like we talked about how you get home a couple minutes later and they're like, where were you for those 2 minutes? Why did it take you 7 minutes to drive home instead of, 5 minutes? I mean, that's a form of control, even though they don't say it out loud.
Right.
Or like if you're not allowed to talk to certain people, or that's a form of control. And so if you feel controlled at all, he's probably a narcissist. So that's like the number one red flag. And I would say do some research. I mean, there's so much stuff on narcissists, on the internet, so much stuff. Do some research. They have like checklists. No, it was not. You know how I found out that he was a narcissist? I was in a doctor taking my kid to the doctor's office, and they had "Are you being abused?" little flyer on their like bulletin board, and I'm like, I don't know, am I? I'm like, holy cow, I am. That's how I found out.
Oh my goodness.
So they have the internet now. I would say look it up. Yes, so helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
But you do have to make a plan. You have to have a separation, but you can't let on that you're doing it. Everything has to be secret. Everything has to be secret. Right. You have to have a separate bank account, a separate everything to save some money, try to get your car in your name, these kinds of things, but try to do it slyly, because if they get any wind of it, it's going to be like World War III. So.
And depending on the narcissist, it could be dangerous.
It could be. If they're physically aggressive, yes, for sure. So, but even emotionally or verbally aggressive, that still hurts so much, especially when you're in that situation. So, yeah, it's best to keep it secret, or even have a friend help you do it, someone that you can trust, help you do that if you can't. So, for sure.
I had a friend who was very, very wise. I didn't know that she even had a clue. But when I started doing my secret plan, I kind of turned to her because she was in the state in which I was going to move to. And I talked to her about it, and she was so glad that I was finally making a plan to get out. She said, I'm coming. I'm flying out. You're going to pick me up, and I'm going to help you pack up, and I'm driving with you. Because if I don't, I fear you're not going to pull through with it. And she was, I was like, no, I'm done. I'm ready. I'm good. But it was so true. Like, it is hard to leave.
It is because you're brainwashed.
Yes, I cried. And I'm like, what is my problem? Why am I crying? This should be the happiest day of my life. And I was bawling. I wanted to, if she
I
wouldn't have
cried
been,
too.
yeah, if she wouldn't have been there, I am pretty sure I would have not gone. I would have stayed. Just because I don't even know why. It was hard.
It's because you're brainwashed. It is.
Right.
You were so brainwashed, and that's the only way to describe it. Because I wanted out so bad, but I cried too. And I wasn't crying because I missed him. I was crying because look at me. I'm like a single mom and I'm 23, and I'm like, my life is not what I wanted it to be, and I had all these great plans, and my husband was supposed to love me, and and it's like you just kind of have to grieve that, like
You do.
that
And
person that you thought he pretended to be.
Right.
So you kind of just have to grieve that.
Yeah. I mean, I too have had multiple abusers. Finally just kind of hit this block where I just like got past it, and my family was like, whoa, what happened? Like, I was like, you know what? I realized that I'm grieving the death of somebody, of who I thought somebody was. And I'm grieving that like a death. And that's okay because it died. Whether it was in my mind or for real, they're gone. And so it kind of let me separate the good guy, the one that I thought I loved and loved me, is gone. And the guy that's here, I want absolutely nothing to do with.
Exactly. That's how I felt too. Yep.
And that's how I was able to deal with it.
Yeah, it is. You do have to separate him and allow yourself to grieve for the one that you thought he was. Don't try to deny that, because that is definitely something that is horrifically sad.
Yeah.
You fell in love with that person. So yeah.
You pictured a life with them and your future with them, and you had everything.
And it's so sad.
Yes, it is. What was the biggest lesson or lessons you feel like you learned going through both the abusive stage and the recovery stage?
I think the biggest lesson I learned, boundaries are very important.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If you don't have boundaries, you're just going to get abused again. So you have to recover, and then you have to have boundaries. That's like putting fences up in your yard, It's like, this is my yard, here's my fences.
Right.
And you just have to do that in recovery. Otherwise, you're doomed.
Yeah.
If you're empathetic, you're a target. Yeah.
Right. And I saw a quote very unrelated to this, but it applies. I build a fence to protect the people I love inside, not because I hate those outside. And when you have a fence, whether it be real or metaphorical, you allow people in. You can still allow people into your
they can go through the gate, right?
Yeah.
You can come through the gate.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you're not welcome, and you're not coming on this side of that boundary.
Exactly. I'm not going to open the gate for you. See ya.
Right, yeah.
But I get to choose, yeah.
Yeah.
Because growing up in a narcissistic home, you're not allowed to have boundaries.
No.
And so everyone can just come on in, and you have to, you have to be their friend, and you have to be loving, and you have to be Christian, and you have to be forgiving. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't work. So boundaries for sure is like one of the biggest things I think is so important. And I'm teaching my kids that too, because I don't want them to have this problem. So, and actually I heard that they have a boundaries book for kids now. Cloud and Townsend. Yes.
No.
That's what I heard. I didn't look it up, but that's what a friend told me. She was going to get it for her kids. So I was like, I'm going to look that up. And
it's Townsend who wrote it?
Cloud and Townsend. That's what I heard. So I have to look it up to see if that's really true.
Right.
So
I'm going to be looking that up too.
Okay.
I like that. I would love to have some backup of someone who actually knows how to teach such things, because like I said, I'm kind of a new...
The kids, because it's that the boundaries book for grown-ups, the one that did the Cloud and Townsend, that was great, but I can't apply that to my children.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And my son is he's a lot like me, which I'm like, oh no.
How old is he?
9.
Very
empathetic, very people please. Like, he wants everyone to be happy. He wants everything to go smoothly.
That's how my daughter is too.
And I'm just like, okay, we got to nip this in the bud because I know what this looks like in 30 years and I do not want
I
this for
know.
you.
And my daughter actually says, I just want to serve you, or I just want to make you happy. I mean, she says
Yes.
these things and I'm
Yes.
just like, oh.
Yep. Yeah. My son too. And I'm just like, no. So my biggest thing, I don't want you to say what you think I want you to say. Like I've said that to him a lot. I don't want you to tell me what you think I want to hear. I want to know the truth. I mean, like toothpaste. He had trouble telling me that he didn't like the kind of toothpaste I got him last time. So he was using it and he hated it.
It's
And
because he's still
finally,
being abused by a narcissist. Yeah. Because there's a narcissist in his life. That's why he's acting that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I have 3 kids, but only 2 with me now because one's in the Army. She has no problem.
Thank them for
But
me.
she doesn't like. Yeah, she's so amazing. I miss her a lot. She's in Colorado.
Oh.
So, yeah, I think letting kids have a voice and have feelings and opinions and not shame them for them
Mm-hmm.
is a really big part of their growth. Yes.
I agree. The other day we were having a conversation, me and my son, and I looked at him and I said, "You're allowed to have a different opinion than me. You know that, right?" And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I am." I said, "Yeah."
Yes.
And I said, "And it's okay." He was like,
That's good.
I mean, it just boggled his mind.
At that age, I would have been like, are you serious?
Right.
No one ever
Right.
told me that.
No. Nope. Especially at that age, I feel like a lot of, whether they're narcissist or not, kids are to be seen, not heard, and do as they're told. And
But that's like the narcissistic home. It is.
it is.
It really is.
And I believe in those things. I believe in, he needs to treat me with respect and we need to have a respectful relationship, but that doesn't mean he has to agree with me on everything.
I know. That doesn't mean they can't have an opinion or can't
Exactly.
voice. I mean,
Or
I
be
let
different.
my kids say stuff to me. I mean, as long as they're not like calling me names, if they're mad about something, they can raise their voice and, be mad, and I don't care.
He was sad one time and I, asked him, what's going on? He was like, nothing, nothing, nothing. And then he started to cry. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And we got down to, I had hurt his feelings very unintentionally. And he knew it was unintentional. So he was trying to convince himself not to be offended and not to be sad. So he was,
that is so sweet.
oh my goodness, he's just the sweetest. And then finally he was like, it just really hurt my feelings when you said, I don't know what it was. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's not even what I meant. Like, I didn't mean it that way. I am so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, he was like, we kind of calmed down. And I said, I want you to be able to come to me and tell me if I upset you or hurt you. He was like, no, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to make you feel bad. And I said, but I am your mom. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel like I have mistreated you, at least without having a voice. I said, if I've hurt you or offended you, you need to come tell me. And he was like, I can't do that all the time, though. And I knew what he was saying.
Because he can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I get that. But with me, you can. I can't control anyone else, but with me, you can let me know you're upset. I said, obviously, I would appreciate if you did it with respect.
Yes.
But you have a voice.
And sometimes I'll say that when in the moment, I'll be like, okay, well, you have to be respectful or whatever. But yeah, my daughter, she's very vocal about everything. And I love that about her. Growing up in a narcissistic house, I was never like hugged or cuddled or I never sat on anyone's lap. I don't know what it's like to have like physical affection. I don't know anything about that. And so with my kids, I really wasn't super affectionate, and it didn't seem like it mattered that much because my oldest daughter wasn't really affectionate. And then my son, he's autistic. And so he didn't really like to be held anyways. And then my baby, she's just like a leech. She's all over me and on me and hugging and kissing. I'm just like peeling her off. And she's 10 now, but she taught me physical affection because that's her love language, and that's just who she is. And so I really had to learn, like, it's okay if someone's touching you or sitting on you or squishing you or, and so that's how she is. And she's like that, very empathetic and very sensitive and very vocal about everything. So I just really love that about her.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If we allow ourselves, we can learn just as much from our kids as they can from us. We just have to be open.
It's so true.
We are the leaders, but we're still equal. I don't see my son as less than me or my subservient soldier. I don't see him that way.
Right. I know. Parents disrespect their kids all the time.
And
And they think
okay.
that's fine. They think that's normal because, well, they're just children and I'm the adult. So it's okay if I disrespect them, but they can't disrespect me.
Right.
Because if they do, then they're going to get punished. Yeah.
Okay.
Or if they stand up for themselves, they're going to get punished.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah, that's the kind of home I grew up in too. So it's very important to me that I respect my kids and I respect how they feel, and that I know that they feel that way, that they feel respected.
Right.
Because that's huge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now we know how not to act. We know what not to do. And we can break that cycle. I think we have a choice when you grow up or experience that in your life a lot. You have a choice to continue it or to stop it.
Even as a child, I was like, I never want to be this way as a mom. You know, I remember saying that to myself when I was like 6 or 8, you know, or 13. So I was always telling myself that I'm never going to be this way. I'm never going to be this way.
Yeah.
Yep. I used their bad behavior as lessons for myself.
Right.
And I think that's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. I experienced, you said that you didn't have the physical attention. I think I had the opposite in different stages of my life. I am a very I'm a huggy person. I don't really have a bubble with if I know you. I'm a hugger, and I'm definitely my son, you know, my mom is very that way. And our family is just very, very huggy and touchy-feely. So I equated that to love, and that got me in trouble. Because then I was easily tricked or manipulated if I got the love and the physical touch that way. Oh, then that must be love. Oh, he must love me. Or, oh, they must really appreciate me. And the two don't always mix.
No, they don't.
And what I have found,
but it got me in trouble too with that. Yeah, because I would seek it out because I never got it. So, I mean, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. And it also is used as a weapon, at least in my life, because they know that
the narcissist for sure.
Yeah, they know that feeds you and that makes you feel good. So to punish you, they may not hit you, they may not slap you, they may not even say nasty things to you, but they withhold their love. They disappear. They
abandon you. Yeah, they abandon you. They reject you. Yep. And every way that they can think of, they'll do the stonewalling. They'll not talk to you for however long it takes. They'll not even look at you if you're in the room. They'll talk to other people in the room, but not you. I mean, this is kind of the covert abuse, you know?
Exactly. And when you tell someone, when you talk to a counselor or a judge or whatever, and you're like, well, he ignored me.
Yeah.
Again, it's how do you explain it? It's not just I walked in the room and he ignored me. It's an intentional jab.
It's manipulation.
Yeah. Yes. And if you don't act in the way they want you to, you don't get their love. You don't get their attention. You don't get their affection, their support. But if you do, then it's like an overshowering of it. Then it's
but
then
it's
everything
fake.
is great.
And after you see the pattern, you're just like, it makes you sick. You just want to vomit.
Yeah. Or when you watch, like, I watch it in like other people's relationships or whatever, and I'm just like, ooh, like nails on a chalkboard.
I know. I'm just like, I want to throw up on them. And they fall for it too. And you're just like, no, please stop.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Yeah. And I've tried to say things like that to loved ones, and they'll be like, oh, like, you're the one to talk. And I'm like, that's the point. I am the one to talk.
I know.
Because I've been there.
Yep. A lot of times, though, people don't really want you to point out red flags, unfortunately.
Right.
I've found that people don't like that. So,
Right. A lot of times you have to kind of let them see it on their own and maybe plant. I'll plant seeds here or there.
Oh, yeah, I do too. Like, ask a question. You know, like, wasn't he like really rude to you the other day? So we can see that he's not all good. See, it's like, yeah.
Right.
I don't know. You just have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not ready.
Pretend I know someone who's in a crappy relationship, a narcissist relationship. What would you say to someone to help support someone and help someone who's in that kind of a relationship? Sometimes I don't want to hear the red flags. So what do you do?
And I think it's really important not to tell them what to do, because no one likes to be told what to do. So don't ever say, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that, and don't do that.
No, they won't listen. They'll turn you off.
Don't ever make fun of their significant other. You know, don't call them names. Don't put them down. Just don't go there. Because they already know all those things really in their heart. They do.
Right.
But it hurts them to hear other people say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then it makes them not want to talk to you about.
They won't talk to you anymore if you were speaking bad about because then you're not trustworthy. I mean, it's really, so don't do that. And then I think just plant seeds, ask questions. And when they come to you and be like, am I really this, and this, like he said, just tell them the truth. Say, no, you're not. You're awesome. You're amazing. You're this and this and this. This is what's true. Right. And just let them, speak truth to them when they need it. And I think eventually, if you do that long enough, they will see you are trustworthy and truthful, and this person is not.
Right.
So I think that's really the best way to do it.
I agree. 100%. I was watching a mother-daughter relationship where the daughter was dating someone not a great pick. And I would watch the mom just harp on the boyfriend all the time. He's this, he's that. I mean, name calling, pointing out every flaw. It was like every day. It was a constant boom, boom, boom.
Yep. That's like a number one no-no.
Number one no-no. Especially when I feel like it's like a parent-child relationship. Because a parent does that, what's a child going to do? At any age. I don't care if you're an adult or a teenager or the exact opposite.
They're going to do it to get back at you.
Right.
Yeah.
And to prove that they're their own person and they can make their own decisions. And even if they see what you're saying, like I watched, they'll
see it.
They'll see it.
They'll see it.
But they're like, nope, then she'll know that she was right. And I'm not, I'm sticking it out because, and it just doesn't help anything.
Yep, exactly. So don't put the spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, don't put them down.
No. Or even
you don't have to say nice things about them, but you don't have to put them down.
You don't have to lie. You don't have to pretend to like them even.
Nope.
And it's the old
just be respectful, and
if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Exactly.
I mean, and there's a lot of times where I have to bite my tongue where I'm just like, oh, I have nothing nice to say about this person, but it's not going to help if I point out. It
won't. It actually will close them up and then ruins everything that you could have done. Yeah.
Any progress you could have had or already had is out the window.
Yep.
Out the window, whether you're right or wrong.
Right.
And it will just make it a longer process. Hopefully, eventually they'll come to the right conclusion, but it'll take them longer.
It will. Exactly.
More harming more than helping.
I don't think people understand that, and that's like a really big thing.
Yeah. This isn't how to do it.
No, once your child gets to a certain age, you just become a support system.
Right.
You're really not like their mother anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you are their mom, but your role has changed.
Right.
So you can't be that do this kind of mom.
Right. One of my biggest things I've learned is what unconditional love and conditional love looks like. And with a narcissist, it is always conditional.
Yes.
If it's a parent, if it's a loved one, if it's a friend, as long as you act a certain way and do certain things.
Or church, pastor. Let's put those
Yep.
out there too.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And those who use, well, God wouldn't want you to do that. So that's why I'm right, you're wrong, and you shouldn't do that. And maybe you're right. Maybe they're right. Maybe it is against the 10 Commandments to do whatever they're doing. And withholding love because you think they're doing the wrong thing, withholding love and support, that's not love. That's not a healthy relationship.
No.
I had learned that.
Yeah, my parents I used to be punished. My parents used to punish me with abandonment and rejection. I mean, every time I did anything they thought was wrong. So, and the narcissist will do that too. The husband or wife, they'll do the same. If they think that you did something wrong to them, they are going to punish you with abandonment and rejection. That's how they roll.
Age doesn't matter. It's well, I'm still their parent and they're still my child, and but they're an adult. I'm 30 some years old. Where my car is parked at what time is nobody's business.
What I post on Facebook is nobody's business.
Right.
Right? I know.
And that doesn't mean you have to agree with what they do. But you can love and support them without supporting all of their actions.
Yeah, the narcissist doesn't know how to do that.
No, not even close.
No, but I had to really that's why I did the hand lettering and the watercolor, because I really had to reteach myself what real love was. And I studied it in the scripture for, I don't know, 6 months or something. It was so long. Every verse that had love or whatever in it, I studied it out and I painted. And I mean,
I love that.
I really had to, because I was brainwashed my whole life into believing this one thing was love. And then I'm like, that can't be love, know?
I did
so
not
you really
feel
have to
love.
dig deep. No.
Yeah. If we want to, especially if we're Christian and want to use God as our example or reason for love and how to love and why to love, then let's dig into that. Did Christ love the sinners?
And it's really hard because, and growing up in a narcissistic home, children always equate God to how their parents are. How your dad treats you think that's how God is. And so you have to rethink that, because obviously God is not a narcissist and he does care how I feel. Right? And so he has unconditional love for me. He's not going to abandon me when I do something wrong.
Exactly.
And so I really have to fix that train of thought and teach myself what real biblical godly love is. And then once I did that, I noticed all the narcissists in my life and I started bam, you're gone, bam, you're gone, because once you know what real love is, the fake kind just doesn't do it for you anymore.
No, exactly. That is exactly, I was in a class, it was a Bible study of some sort. I don't remember what it was, but we were learning about godly love, and the teacher was amazing. He is amazing. He's the best teacher I have ever met. But he looked at me and he said, "Do you believe that God loves you?" And of course, the answer was yes. And he was like, "What if you make a mistake? Does he still love you?" And I went, "Well, yeah, after I, repent and ask for forgiveness." And he went, "No." I was like, "Not even then?" It didn't even, he was like, "No, he still loves you before that. He doesn't disappear because you made a mistake. He's there even closer to try and help you come back." And it was just
I always thought he was mad. I know.
Yes.
I always thought God was mad at me all the time for everything.
Yes.
And my counselor had to get me to see that he's not mad at you. If you're following God and you're trying to do what's right, he's not mad at you. Right. She's like, he's not mad at you. And I'm like, I just can't even understand that.
Yeah. It's hard to wrap your brain around because you're just like, what? Because you don't know what it looks like. So it's just a very foreign. What?
Well, my parents were always mad at me. So it's like, because I always did something,
Right. We're human.
They're always mad at something. So,
no one's perfect in this life.
No. So that's really hard to come back from. Yeah. So that was a journey.
Mhm.
But I think if you grew up in a narcissistic home, you really have to do that. You really have to go on that journey and figure that out.
Absolutely.
Yep.
If you find toxic people in your life, there's different ways you can deal with them. You can choose to ignore it and keep taking the toxicity and the abuse and all of those things, which we do.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't, but we do. You can dismiss them completely, kick them out of your life completely. If that is possible, then absolutely do it, because you just don't need that. If it's
Mm-hmm.
someone like a parent or someone that's in your family that sometimes you're going to run into every once in a while, or you want them in your life but they're toxic, maybe just take like a break and then just limit their access to
Mm-hmm.
you and your life. I'm working with someone right now that is kind of in that process, and I'm like, you know what, maybe 5, 10, 20 years you can have a relationship with them again, but right now limiting is what you need for your mental health, and you are a mom, and so your mental health is going to affect theirs, and so it's about limiting their access to you. You don't have to.
That's very important, I
Yeah.
think, especially if you're a mom, because your mental health affects your children and your children's mental health.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also teaching them
Boundaries.
Look
at that.
It's teaching them that it is not okay to let people treat you a certain way. It's not
Right.
okay. It's not acceptable.
Nope.
We don't just take it and smile about it.
Yeah.
Please hit me again.
Yep.
No, it's not okay.
Yeah.
And one thing I like to also teach with, clients or my son is toxic is toxic, abuse is abuse, and you don't get a hall pass for that.
No.
Because so many times,
even if you had trauma in your life, people are like, well, it's just because they've had trauma, and that I get that, but they're toxic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's sad. Like, you can understand why someone is the way they are, but that doesn't mean that you need to let them do
Yes,
damage
exactly.
to you.
You can have compassion for them and you can pray for them from over here.
Yeah, exactly. Pray and support them from afar. You don't need that in your life. And I don't care. Well, but you can't cut them out of your life because they're blood. They're your mom. They're your dad. They're your uncle, your brother,
sibling,
your sister.
or whatever. Yeah.
Well, they're your family. You can't just cut them out. Yes, you can. If they're toxic to you, and then yes, you can, and you should.
I think there's scripture to back that up. I really do.
Yeah,
if you
and
dig
honestly,
into
I saw something not too long ago about it, but toxic
I haven't
is toxic.
really looked it up, but yeah, we're allowed to have boundaries for sure.
Exactly. We should.
It doesn't matter if it's
need them.
blood. Yeah.
Exactly. Blood does not give you a reason to mistreat someone just because you have the same DNA.
Right.
But
Agreed.
does not mean, oh, okay, that means you can do whatever you want, and I am just going to let it happen. It shouldn't be that way.
That's exactly what they say. They want you to just keep forgetting and forgetting.
Yep.
But that's not. Yeah.
As a Christian, I believe forgiveness is important. And another thing I learned was forgiving someone does not mean you give them access back to harm
or even
you
trust them again.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean trust.
No. Forgiveness means you don't let it affect you anymore. You've let it go.
Right. It doesn't mean that they get to be in your life still. Exactly.
No. And that was something I didn't understand. I thought, well, if I forgive them,
as I was never,
back.
Because we weren't allowed to have boundaries.
No,
so,
exactly. Exactly. So I love that we're having this conversation, and I know this is very idealistic, but I hope it just spreads the word, because I don't feel like this conversation is talked about enough. I don't think people understand. I would love to get legislation to change.
It's like you want to be able to be out there and have your voice out there, and it's like, will they be more willing to talk to you or listen to you, if you have a degree?
Right.
I don't know.
Right. And I'm sure there's some of that, but I would love to really just get the word out. And that's why I'm doing this. This is why, and I loved your content. I was like, I have to have her. Like like I told you before, you're my spirit animal. Like, you get it.
Yes, I do get it. I do get it. And you know what? When people tell me that they left a narcissist and they're thriving, I'm like, you're a warrior. And I tell them that you're a warrior.
Yep.
It's nice to meet another warrior.
Yes.
Because it's so hard to overcome, and even going through all the processing of the trauma and everything takes a long time. Sometimes it takes the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I agree.
it's tough. It's tough finding people like us. And
Yeah.
so I do appreciate your content and stuff.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about yesterday, I feel like you can find a lot of people who are willing to talk about having PTSD, but it's more of an excuse. It's more of a crutch. It's, I have PTSD and that's why I am the way I am, and so you just have to deal with it. Or it's just
and they
victim
and they
mode.
talk about their
Victim.
struggles, and yeah. And it's like they just focus on their symptoms, and they focus on the bad parts, and those are good things to talk about, but we really can't focus and stay there. You know,
Right.
You can't camp on that.
Exactly.
You have to move forward. So,
and I think it's important not to stuff feelings. I use a forest analogy. If you feel, anxiety or depression, or if you're triggered, or any negative emotion, anger, you can't stuff it and ignore it and pretend it's not there and expect it to disappear. It's like,
right.
If you're walking through if you want to get to the other side of a forest, you have to walk through it. You can't pretend the forest isn't there and it goes away. You have to go through the forest to get to the other side. Now, does that mean you go halfway in the forest and then you set up camp and stay there? No, you don't stay in that anger.
Nope.
You don't stay in that anxiety. You don't stay in that mindset, but you got to work through it. So then you are on the other side. So don't just set up camp and say, well,
I think people just stop halfway and be like, this is me. This is who I am.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's it.
And they focus on, and it's so easy to do. I mean, I went through this stage too. I went through it too, where it was like,
because it's terrible
because of this person. And for some reason, I don't know why, we think that if we stay angry and we hold on to who it was who hurt us, who got us to that point, somehow that punishes them.
It doesn't even touch them.
No, they don't care. They don't care. It doesn't affect them at all. It only affects you.
Nope. Yeah.
So you got to get through it. You got to work through it. And it's not easy. I don't mean to sound like, oh, just get over it. No, you got to work through it.
And that's what we were talking about yesterday. Like, go to counseling right away.
Yes.
Because even if you don't think you need it, you need it. Narcissistic abuse is horrible.
Yeah.
It's I don't even know how to explain it, but you need it. Believe me.
Yes. It messes with your mind and how you view yourself in the world. And they've retrained how you think about those things. So you need someone to help you retrain your thought process and who you are and who you want to be. They're the ones who unwired you and wired you in one way. You got to get someone who's a professional and someone that you click with. So it may take some time to find the right person for you. But once you find that person, you stick with them and you work through it so they can help rewire you the way you want to be rewired and the way that's healthy to be rewired.
And go at your own pace. If you can only handle going like once a month, go once a month to counseling. If you can handle it once a week, go once a week. Like, do what your brain can handle. There's no race. It's not who can get done the fastest.
Right.
It's just how fast that you can go.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm this way. I am a go big or go home. So I remember going and I was like, okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to go to counseling for a couple months and then I'll be good. Like, I thought everything would just go away and be fine. And it did not work out that way. But I'm glad your body and our minds need time to process what we're learning. So as you're processing through the grief, through the trauma, and through the recovery, and through all of these new feelings and maybe flashbacks and triggers, as you're moving through all of those, you need that help and support and time to process. So,
and it is like an onion, they say.
Yes. Yeah, I don't
and you
think
got to do the layers.
You got to process. You got to go layer by layer. You're not going to get to the core.
By layer. Yep.
Yeah. And I want to say again, it's so important to, I know my first counselor that I went to when this all kind of came to a head, literally hadn't even heard my story yet. I didn't even get to talk. He looked at me and he said, I worked with POWs of war, and they went through all of these terrible things, which they did. I mean, I'm not downplaying that. He said, so anything you tell me can't be anything worse than what they've gone through. So people had it worse. You need to suck it up.
Wow.
That was the last time I saw that guy. Yeah. But he called me a coward. No, other people.
I'm surprised he went to a guy.
It was just the one that was close.
Oh,
and
because that was like, I knew I wouldn't be able to go to a guy just because I had too many guy abusers.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I did not go back. So, but I looked, and then I found another one that I was like, I thought was great because she was not like that. It didn't really mesh well either. But the one I have now, love. Love, love, love. She has brought me to a place I, at least at one point, never thought I'd be functional again at all.
I didn't think I would be either.
But she has.
So she told me I would be fine, and I was just like, I don't see it, but okay.
Right. Me too. I was like, okay. But then I went from that to, okay, I'm ready to heal. Let's do it today. Let's go through all of it, heal it, be done. It doesn't work that way either. It's a process. And
it is.
I'm not even close to saying I've got it all healed good 100%. I'm not. But man, I am a far cry ahead from where I was. And I look back and go, I needed someone who understood to help me through that. So that's when I'm like, okay, I can be that. That's the one thing I can do. I can be the person who understands, who can support and sympathize, but still be like, yep, that sucks. That was unfair. But now it's time you got to move forward.
That's so funny because that's exactly the kind of person I am. I was explaining that to my pastor the other day because he was like trying to guess my spiritual gifts because we're doing this class, and I'm like, oh, I think it's mercy. And he's like, right. And then I had to think about it. I'm like, it can't be mercy because my kids, when they're upset, they don't even really come to me. They go to dad because he's like the compassionate and caring one. I'm like, suck it up. You're fine. Brush it off. That's just the kind of person I am. I'm not really like, oh, really? I mean, I try to be more with people that I know are hurting, but I'm really like, I get it. I understand. It sucks so bad and it hurts so bad, but you got to get up. You got to take a step forward. You got to brush this off.
Yep.
And that's exactly who I am. And I feel like because of that kind of my personality, I would probably be a better like coaching than a therapist because I would probably screw people up so bad.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I started doing the coaching thing because I was an athlete, so I get the whole like dig in, work, go.
Yeah.
But I also come at it with, I know this sucks. I know this hurts.
See, yep. And that's what I would say to them. I'm like, it sucks so bad. I've been there.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. But I don't let people stay there. And usually when people stay, like if they want to stay there, then I usually think in my mind, they're not ready for my help, and then when they're ready, they'll come to me.
Right.
And so I just kind of like let them,
Yeah.
So
when they're ready, they'll They know
Yep.
I'm here. Yeah.
Yep. And when they're ready for my coaching, they come back like, okay, let's do this, you know? So,
Yeah. Yep.
yep.
Let me ask you my favorite question. If you could go back 20, 30 years, what would you tell yourself about the trials that you go through and getting through it?
And I would tell myself for sure that don't let the narcissist snuff out your inner light, because the narcissist doesn't want you to have any inner voice, or doesn't want you to even have God's inner voice. They want to be your inner voice, God's inner voice.
Right.
Every other, they just want to have control of your mind.
Right.
And so they really do. They try to snuff out that inner voice and make you be a part of them. And so I would just say, don't let them do it. Don't let them make you so small that voice disappears, because that's their goal.
Right.
For sure.
We didn't really talk about this time your art. You talked a little bit about your lettering and what was helpful about it to you. Can you put a finger on it? Sometimes it's hard to.
Yeah, well, I think growing up in narcissism, you are taught to be a perfectionist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything has to be perfect, right. Everything.
Or your whole world falls apart.
Yeah, if it's not perfect, you're stupid. You're like the dust of the earth, And so with art and the lettering, I really had to retrain my brain. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's art.
Right. Yeah.
And so I would mess up and throw it away, I'm like, what? Stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
Finish a painting, And so then I would force myself to finish it. And then I would still want to throw it away.
Yeah.
And people would be like, no, just post it on Instagram. It's good. Trust me, it's good. And so I think just learning that I don't have to be perfect, and painting and just letting it be art, it taught me that I didn't have to be a perfectionist. And that was a really big step for me, because I mean, that was so ingrained in me that I had to be perfect.
Yeah.
So that's what art taught me, and it was great.
Awesome. What other tools would you say helped you work through it, helped you heal, helped you process? Were there any other? We talked about the art and we talked about counseling.
I think exercise. I started running. So you have to have a way to burn off. You have to have a way to burn off your energy, because hypervigilance, it's like so much energy. You're just like, I don't know what to do with it. You got to burn it off.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would do. I would just go running for miles and burn it off. So yeah. I mean, not everyone likes to run, but you can do other stuff. You could swim, or you could, walk, or any of those things.
Right. Just getting your heart pumping and your blood flowing and get that oxygen to all your parts of your body, especially your brain. That's when I do my best thinking, is when I'm.
And part of that is EMDR, because EMDR, you said you've already been through. And so it's like helping the left and the right brain communicate. That's what EMDR is. Well, you can do that while you're walking too, is because you're stimulating both sides of your brain with your steps like this. And so it actually helps you to process. And so after counseling, a lot of times I would go for a walk or go for a run to help process what she was saying. Those kinds of things. Yeah.
Yep. I'm with you. I think a lot of what happened with me is I hurt my back, and I started having some major health issues where I couldn't run. I couldn't work out. I literally could not do those things. And that's when I kind of threw my hands in the air, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. I can't go run for miles and miles to work this out. What am I supposed to do? Just to back up a little bit, when I was at my lowest point, and maybe you experienced the same. I didn't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do anything. I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to get up and eat. I
Yep.
It was overload. So the idea, when I would hear someone say, you know, oh, you need to go for a run, or you should go work out, I looked at them and I'm like, honey, I'm not even getting out of the house today. Like, no. So what I would do at those times where I could not get out of bed, could not do it, I was at the lowest of lows, my biggest thing is just do the next best thing. We do things in layers. We heal in layers, just like we release and process in layers. Just do one thing more than what you're doing. Do something to raise your mood a little bit. You are not going to go from depths of despair to elated happiness in one shot. It just isn't. There's nothing in the world. We would be millionaires if we could figure that out. Right? There isn't a one shot, but you can always do something to at least rise it a little bit, go to the next level. So what I would do is, I love Kevin Hart. I would find a comedian or a show that would make me laugh. And sometimes I had to get pretty creative to what is going to make me laugh today when I feel like my whole world is crumbling to pieces. I'm not going to laugh. So, but you find it. You find what's going to make you laugh, what's going to make you happy. What you input is what is going to output. And especially with the anxiety and the depression and those things, I had to be really careful what I watched, what I listened to, everything.
I know.
I couldn't
even what
watch,
you eat.
Yeah. I couldn't watch violent shows. I couldn't watch shows about
too many triggers. I really couldn't watch a lot of shows. I couldn't watch TV really anymore because everything triggered me.
Yeah.
So I was just like music and like painting and and at one point I was so bad because I fell and I hurt myself, and so then I was bedridden.
Right.
And so and it's awful and it's so depressing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you get up and you're like, I don't feel like running. I don't even feel like going outside. I don't feel like walking. Well, I know exactly how that feels, but I would force myself to do it anyway. And I would, if I was too tired to run, I would go for a walk. And the whole time I'm walking, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. Why am I out here? You know?
Yep.
But I'm like, well, because it's good for you, you know? Right. And it's this is what you have to do to yourself.
Yeah. You have to kind of give yourself some tough love sometimes.
Yeah.
I think we need to be gentle with ourselves more than maybe we are, but I also think there's a time and place where you need to give yourself some tough love.
If I have bad weeks, I don't run or anything. I'm like, this week was terrible. I'm not going to exercise. I'm fine. And I let myself have grace for that. You know, I don't I don't keep a schedule. I don't like exercise certain amounts of times a week. I don't do that. I don't have rules or anything like that. I just go with like how I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you need.
What I need or whatever.
Right. So anything else you would like to tell either those who are struggling and trying to figure out their next step?
Maybe I would tell them make goals, but not just long-term goals, little goals, like just little things.
Right.
You know, like look for an apartment this week, or, you know, save aside $20 this week, or you just like little things. That way you feel like you can check something off. It feels good to check something off a list.
Right.
And it makes it feel it's not so overwhelming, because it is so overwhelming when you're stuck in that kind of situation.
And you have at least that much control in your life.
So have a secret list and just check something off, or even if it's just in your mind, you know.
Right.
So.
Because a lot of times you're scared, you know, what if they see this list?
What if he finds it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I want to put a disclaimer out. We talk a lot about he, because I feel like both of us have a lot of he examples of this kind of abuse, but it can definitely be the other way around.
Yes.
I know plenty of
female narcissists everywhere.
Yes. I've seen plenty of those examples too. So I do not want to sound like we're saying it's always the male. It's not.
Right. It's not. And females act the same way.
Yeah.
I think the older you get, just the less chances. You're just like, nope, you're done. That was your chance.
Yeah.
You know, when you're younger, you're like, oh, well, they didn't mean to.
Right.
You know,
well, you didn't mean not to either. Like, I'll say that to my son. Like, well, I didn't mean to do that. Well, you didn't do anything to try and prevent it either.
Right.
My battle, I feel like now, is not to be too harsh and too quick to just take someone off. my list. Oh,
Right. You can't have your fences so high that you don't have any friends at all.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Yep.
you can't like one offense and out, depending on the offense, obviously. But
Right.
That's my battle, is to not be too harsh and just like, nope,
I have
you're
a
done.
tendency to blacklist people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told my counselor that I blacklist people all the time. I'm like, yep, you're out.
Yeah.
And I need to like chill with that a little bit. I'm so intense. That's
Mhm.
me. So I'm in like that. I'm in all in. I'm like your bestie, or I don't really like you.
Yeah. Yeah. But once I'm all in, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's me too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you.
Hopefully this one recorded.
Huh? I
Hopefully it
hope
recorded.
so. You know, in the next 10 minutes. If not, you're
I
going to
know.
be
I'm going to be
hearing
waiting
from
for
me.
the text.
I will let you know. It worked! Or, oh my gosh, I'll just give up. I was like, I'm done. I am not meant to do this.
Oh,
No,
wow.
honestly, that's kind of the opposite of how I felt, because I'm going to tell you some honest truth here. The first time we called, that night was horrible. I did not sleep. I did not feel good. I woke up just like, oh my gosh. And I was like, maybe I should just reschedule another day. Like, I don't know that I even have the energy to do it well or to put out there. Like, I was just exhausted. And I literally had started a message to you. And I stopped and I was like, who wants me to not do this?
Right. See, and that's how I feel sometimes too. It's the enemy sometimes, I
Yeah.
feel.
And then I was like, nope,
Mhm.
not today, Satan. And I got up and I
Yep.
got ready and I'm like, we're doing this. And then that
Yep.
happened. Then I lost and I was just like, oh. So that's when I was like, nope, I'm rescheduling it. We're doing this. This is obviously
Yep.
meant to be. So I
Yep.
appreciate you.
I feel the same way. Like Satan is going to try everything.
Mm-hmm. I
We
need
got his
to.
number though. We know.
Exactly. We got it done. Okay.
Awesome. All right.
Yay.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye.